be talking about data-driven insights for Windows management, servicing, and support. That's what we would do in this session. And we'll talk about desktop analytics, configuration manager, and Intune. I'm Deepam Dubey. I'm part of the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team. Along with me, I have two rock stars here from Schlumberger. I have Matthew Hudson. He's one of our customers. And then I have Rob Bjark from my team as well, and he's going to show you something cool as well. All right, so with that, let's quickly talk a little bit about some of the challenges our IT pros are facing today. And I want to actually talk about these because they will set up a good baseline for the discussion we will have in this session. So we know that most of you are having challenges with managing and deploying your Windows, because Windows is going out as a service model now. It ships every 6 months. You have new features which you go and update. And it's hard to keep up with that pace, and we know that, right? So we want to help you with that. Now, we also know that legacy hardware and poorly configured softwares are also causing poor experiences for you. Your end users are seeing suboptimal productivity, and they are getting hit. So we want to help you with that as well. And then we have done also some cool thing to help your help desk personals to solve end user issues more efficiently. So we have done some work over there as well. So these are the three challenges we will cover in this session today. We have DA to help with management and deployment of Windows 10 and then keeping current with that. We have user experience analytics for some of the productivity things I called out. And then we have tenant attach, which we will also be showing you today. So in the next 45 minutes, this is what we're going to do. We'll spend a little bit of time on modern device management, because that's what is the crux of how we want these three solutions to be used by you. And then majorly, we will spend a lot of time on DA, talk about current state of affairs. We'll also give you a demo and share a customer story as well. So Matthew will come up on stage and talk about his experiences. And then we'll talk about what's next and what's new. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on user experience analytics as well. I'm sure all of you attended sessions on that throughout the week. And then we will show you a cool demo of tenant attached too. And then we'll wrap up in the end. Sounds good? All righty. All right, so the three solutions which I talked about today, I'm sure a lot of you swung by our booth as well and were curious about what is Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So Microsoft Endpoint Manager is a new vision where we are saying now Intune, Autopilot, Configuration Manager, and Autopilot, they are coming together, and analytics as well. All four of these solutions are coming together under one umbrella, which we are calling as Microsoft Endpoint Manager, right? It's based on the power of intelligent cloud and intelligent edge to get you all the latest and the best. And then we want you to adopt this to continue managing your devices, your PCs, and your mobile experiences. Here are some of the themes which align really well with this new way of modern device management. You get cloud-powered PCs, so you get the latest and the best of Windows and Office, right? You get the best of mobility management, so you get mobile experiences, your apps are much more secure, your corporate data is also much more secure. Users can access not only the personal applications, but can also access corporate applications. You have a greater integration with M365 stack, so you are more secure there, you are much more productive there, your users are much more productive there. And then we also encourage you and your users to bring over their devices to work as well, so they can connect safely and access corporate data too. So that's what you will get with this modern management. And that's why we want you to start thinking about Microsoft Endpoint Manager. I want to quickly emphasize that Configuration Manager and Intune are better together. They're most complete, they're more secure, and they give you more value together, right? So they have been in the market for a long time now. More than 170 million endpoints are being managed by both of the products today. We want you to continue to adopt modern cloud management solutions we have. With Intune now, you can do conditional access. You can get access to policy analytics and compliance and security and all of that cool stuff. So we want you to go through this transformation. We know that you have a lot of your complex workloads which you manage by Configuration Manager today, and we want you to continue to do that. But slowly, we want you to move over to the modern management side. And with this new announcement we have made, now if you're a user of Configuration Manager, you are entitled to also licenses for Intune, so you can go and avail that as well. So definitely give it a try, and then see what's on the other side as well as you go cloud and go mobile. All right, as I said, initially there were 3 things I would be talking about. So now I will focus more on desktop analytics. A quick show of hands to see how many of you all are actually using or have heard about this product. So I can probably say 20 to 25% of the audience know about this, so that's really good. We will actually also spend some time going through a live demo to see how the experience looks like. But just to give a brief introduction, what DA is. DA is all about how can you efficiently deploy and keep current with Windows 10. And how can you do that? We help you do that by making informed decisions and simplifying your deployment process. So what do you mean by make informed decisions? So what we provide you in desktop analytics is comprehensive inventory of all of your apps and assets and drivers. We provide you compatibility assessments around it. And then we also tell you how to make informed decisions around it. We use the power of diagnostic data. Once you start sharing that data with Microsoft, that's where you see all of that rich and cool value. And for the deployment process, what we do there is we provide you complete visibility into the process. So we provide you the power of piloting as well. So we provide you recommendations about some of the devices you can get started first to begin your deployment, and then initially go to a complete rollout. So we give you those insights as well using the power of AI and machine learning, and I'll show you some of those capabilities as well. And during the whole process of you going from preparation to pilot to production, we provide you complete visibility into the whole process. So that's a little bit about DA. Some of the top features. We have better integration with Microsoft Management Tools now. So I will also demonstrate. You will see how closely and tightly coupled we are with the Configuration Manager now. It's a single pane of glass to stay current and then get current with Windows 10. So we not only want you to be on 10, but you also want you to continue, and then take the latest and the best of Windows. You get a full 360 view of your device inventory. You see all of your assets and apps. Trust me, people actually get surprised when they know, oh, I never knew that I had so many apps within my ecosystem, right? And all the different set and scenarios of drivers. I also talked about pilots. So what we have also done is we have introduced this concept of pilots now. So I hope a lot of you probably know about Windows Analytics already. If not, in Windows Analytics, there was no way for you to get pilot recommendations. The recommended practice was to go and deploy at once. We have heard that feedback, and what we have done on that is now we provide you intelligent pilots to get started, and then look and learn from that data before you move on to your production deployment. So that's a little bit about what DA has. Now, before I jump into the demo, I actually also want to quickly recall the requirements you need to have to run DA efficiently within your environment. First of all, you need an Azure subscription. I just want to call out that you don't have to be co-managed. It's just an Azure subscription you need to connect to the DA portal. You will need global admin rights to do so. You will obviously need Configuration Manager because we are tightly together now. You will need to be a full right admin over here to do that process of making sure that the connection happens between the Azure portal or the DA portal and the config man console. The minimum requirement is right now is 1902. That's where you need to be to get desktop analytics. And then once you enroll your devices, right, make sure that they have the latest security updates or the monthly rollups, because there are some critical OS components which are needed for the diagnostic data to be shared with Microsoft. And then, as I said, you need to enable diagnostic data. If you are at basic, you get minimal experience or limited experience. If you are at enhanced limited, that's a level above basic. That's where you get the optimal experience of desktop analytics, and you get all the pilot and all the health insights, which I was just talking about. Right, so with that, let's quickly show you a demo of the product, because I believe a demo goes a long way than just slides. So let's do that. Let me make this switch over here. Right, I hope you guys can see the screen. Let me do F11 so it looks better. All right, so what I want to first show you is the home screen. So you are a new user, you completed the whole onboarding process, you connected your configuration manager, all of your devices are now enrolled, and they're sending diagnostic data, and now you want to go and then look into the portal. So this is how your portal will look like once the data starts showing up. So you will see at a glance how current are you on your security and your feature updates. So we want to show you how many of your devices are running the latest security updates and feature updates. So we want you to have a preview of that so that you can keep an eye on how current you are. And then this is where you see all of the devices which you enrolled during the enrollment process. And if you see that some of the devices are not showing up, or if the count is less than what you expected, then there is a troubleshooting experience as well for you to go and then look into to see what's happening with that enrollment process. Then to the right, you see all the apps which are getting reported from those devices, right? And down below, what you see is a summary of your deployment plans. So deployment plan is a concept of going from one version of OS to the target version of OS, and we will deep dive into that a little bit, and we'll show you how a deployment plan works. All right, so before I start talking about deployment plan, what I actually also want to show you is how does the security updates page look like. So in this view, you see all of your devices. So for example, I have about 8,000 devices here, and it shows you how many of my devices are running the latest security update versus how many of them are out of date. So it's a good way for you to keep an eye and keep a tab on how things are going within your enterprise. And then you also see a breakdown of the data here as per the build of Windows devices you have, and then you can deep dive and can do more detailed analysis. All right? You all are there with me till now? All right. So the next, what I will show you is a concept of a deployment plan. So it's easy to create one. I'm just going to name it test, and then you need to choose the version of the Windows you want to go to. We have 3 versions supported. The latest 3 versions are supported here. And then after that, you will choose the device groups. So these are the device groups or the collections you will see when you enrolled and synced Configuration Manager to the desktop analytics, because you will get an option to choose your collections there. And then you will choose some of the readiness rules here, things like what threshold do you want to define for low install count. So by default, if any app is installed, is not installed on more than 2% of your devices, it is deemed as low install count, right? So you can go and change that filter. You can toggle that. It's a variation from 0 to 10%. Depends on how much you want to tolerate and what your tolerance is, or whatever you're comfortable with. And then you can also set a completion date for this deployment plan. For the sake of demo and simplicity, what I've done, obviously, and you know this, we do this all the time, I've already created one so that we can go over this, because this has some data we can look at. So if you look at a deployment plan, this is called as Ignite Pre-Demo Deployment Plan. It has about 16,000 devices. It's targeting version 1903 of Windows 10. And if you look at the 3 steps here, or the 3 parts of a deployment plan, which are called as prepare, pilot, and deploy. So every deployment plan needs to go through this for the completion or for a complete journey, right? So what you would see, and I'm going to go through this one by one. So first we will go into the prepare stage. This is where we show you all the apps from those devices which exist in this deployment plan. Now, what you can see here is that there's a concept of noteworthy applications. So these noteworthy applications are the apps which are found to be not in the low install count bucket. So the apps which are installed on 2% or the threshold you chose on the settings before. So these apps are those applications, and they're deemed as noteworthy applications, right? So what you can also do, you can click on the application name, and this is where you see all of this rich information about app details, app usage. We expect you to make importance decisions or provide some user inputs here. So we want you to tell us how critical, important, not important this app is for you in the context of upgrade, and we expect you to go and do that for each and every noteworthy application. I actually want to call out that we got some feedback from some of our current users that they had to go and do this for all the modern applications and system components which are published by Microsoft. So we did some great work recently to now auto-mark them as ready to upgrade. So you don't have to do that work. But if you want to change that setting, you can obviously do that. The workflow allows you that. By data, we now can say that this is going to reduce your workload by about 40 to 50%. When I say 40 to 50%, that means you will have to go and spend lesser time on this workflow now for preparation. So you can quickly unblock and move on to the later stages. Okay. Some of the other things which I also want to show you, for example, for this app, I see some other cool things such as compatibility risks. So we show you leveraging the power of cloud because we have millions of devices running on Windows 10. So we show you if there are any Microsoft known issues around it. So you can look at that data and then also can use that to derive your upgrade decision because that's what we want you to do. So you can make your decisions and say, hey, if this thing is ready right now or not, or if this is not ready, I have a remediation plan for this. And then you can come up with that remediation plan or validation plan using some of the insights and data we are providing to you in this workflow, right? So obviously you can use all of this. I actually want to call out that a lot of you were concerned about line of business applications because line of business applications sometimes are problematic when in the context of upgrade, and it's hard to get insights for those. So what we have done starting 1906 version of Configuration Manager, now we also assess all of these of any line of business app or any app installed on your devices for things such as 16-bit dependencies or .NET, if you're using legacy versions of .NET or if you're dependent on VB6. So there are certain extra rules we apply on those applications, and we'll also give you those insights as well so that you can drive those actions and those user inputs faster. All right. One thing which we also learned from a lot of our customers was that previously it used to take 24 days to generate a snapshot. So anything which you do in the portal today will be stored in the backend, and then we will generate a new snapshot for you, which will show up tomorrow. So what we have done with that is, if you see this blue button now, what this blue button can do for you, this can generate data on demand. So it's called as on-demand data refresh. So every time you make any changes to the portal, you change app importance or user importances, you can hit on that blue button, and with that you can get a newer and a fresh snapshot of the recent changes you made. So this was something which was a high value feedback we heard from you, and we incorporated that. Once you're done with this, the next stage is obviously giving you the pilot recommendations. And this is what I briefly mentioned when I introduced Desktop Analytics. So what you see here is so if you remember initially I showed you that this deployment plan had about 18,000 devices. So now we're saying out of those 18,000 devices, these 2,300 devices are going to give you about 25% coverage on the assets which you marked as important in the previous workflow. So we look at all the apps which are important, which you have marked important, and all the different hardware configurations you have on those devices, and we combine them and put them into a machine learning model, which then gives us information about how can you, like what is the minimal set of devices which represent that set. So that number is over here, but the story doesn't stop here. What we also provide you is additional recommendations. So apart from these devices, these are additional 1,600 devices, and if you add them to this pilot recommendation, you're going to get an additional 75% coverage. So that's about 100% coverage, and we want to cover 100% assets and different configurations of hardware you have. Right? So if you accept this, you're going to get all the complete coverage of your devices. Now, a lot of time people come back and say, hey, I need a replacement. I sometimes don't want to pilot on something. And obviously, we have incorporated that in the workflow as well. If you want to replace a device, we will give you an alternate recommendation as well. So I can click on this device, and I can hit replace, and then we will work to give you an alternate recommendation for this. So that's about pilot. There was one thing which was really exciting, that if you look at this data right now, so pilot actually considers device family as one of a factor to determine what devices to choose. What we have also done recently now is that we have also started looking into device models now. So if you have various models of Surface you're using with your enterprise, so all of those devices will also be included. So this makes it much more accurate and much more exciting. All right, so once you're done with that, the next step for you would be to go resolve any issues you have on these pilot devices. So if we will tell you of all the Microsoft issues we know for all the apps you have on your devices, and we want you to go and look at that so that you can take some actions on those. And once those actions are taken, at that point in time, you're pilot ready. And that's when we want you to go and deploy that pilot. And to do so, while you do so, we also provide you deployment status. So if you have any devices which are stuck, or if they're rolling back, if they have any issues, we provide you some error descriptions for those as well. They should show up pretty soon. They're here now. So these error descriptions will help you see how can you debug better, or how can you also unblock your deployments. So once you're done with that, now the next stage is, if you remember, there were 3 things, right? Preparation, pilot, and deploy. So the third stage is now deployment. How do you get to deployment? How do you get to production ready? So for that, what you need to do here is what we also provide you once you have your deployments done for your pilots. Now they're on the target version where they should be, or where you want them to be. We start looking at the data about some of the health from those devices. So things like, for example, for reference, this application, we will tell you how is the before and after story looking for this particular application. Has it started crashing more? Has it started hanging more after it went to the target OS? So these insights are actually really helpful to let you know if these assets are meeting your production goals or not, right? And then we also provide you certain industry averages and commercial averages to compare and baseline with, and also make decisions, right? And if they're not, then probably you can look into that. And to help you with that, we provide a lot of data here. We tell you all the versions of this app. Maybe there is only one particular version of the app which is crashing, and everything else is working fine. So maybe you can go and adopt that version. So all of that information is provided here. So hopefully, once you think that all of your assets are meeting goal, then you sign them up for production. You sign off on them, and at that point in time, you're production ready. So that's how a complete or a typical workflow would look like in desktop analytics for you to create a deployment plan and go about it. Before I jump back to the slides, I quickly also want to show that we have gotten feedback from a lot of people where they said, hey, I wanted to migrate from Windows Analytics to desktop analytics. So there is a way for you to go do that today as well. In the workflow, there is an experience by which now you can go and migrate from Windows Analytics to desktop analytics. So if you chose the same workspace, which you were using in Windows Analytics while you were onboarding to DA, now we will seamlessly migrate all of your user inputs as well. All right? All right, let's jump back to the slides now, real quick. The demo is done. All right, some key things I want to call out. We announced GA last month, so the service is now generally available, adopted and loved by thousands of you all. We have about 4 million devices enrolled currently since the public preview. I just want you to pay close attention to this, that device health and upgrade readiness will retire on Jan 31st, 2020. So if you're using those products, come up with a plan and migrate over to DA. However, if you're using update compliance, that will continue to be supported, so that's not going away. So I wanted to just put that in your head. And then I did a session on office readiness as well. If you think you want to do Pro Plus deployments, refer to that session and then read some of that content. That will be really helpful as well. All right, so with that, I actually want to invite over Matthew now so he can talk about how DA is changing their life, Hopefully it is. Yeah, Matthew.
Howdy, everyone. So my name is Matthew Hudson. I work for Schlumberger. We are an oil field services company. So much like you, I'm a senior systems engineer. So much like you, when we went to the Windows as a service, getting off Windows 7, we said, okay, let's just push out the feature update because it'll work, right? How many people pushed out the feature update and started seeing issues on their machines, like couldn't roll, or they rolled back, hard blocks? So a few. The lucky ones went through and had no problems. So we pushed it out. We started seeing rollbacks, so the machine would go through the Windows update process, roll back. Hard blocks, which means basically you have an application that cannot be on the machine, so it wouldn't move forward. This created a whole bunch of what we call non-productive time inside the company. You do not want to have that on an oil rig because obviously thousands of dollars per second, we got to fix this. So of course the business said, stop what you're doing, please stop what you're doing, this is just not working. So we took a step back and said, what can we do? So then we looked at Windows Analytics. So we said, okay, let's jump on Windows Analytics. So we pulled down the script, deployed that out to the machines, got the data up into Azure, and then of course then we could see all the applications we had. We could see all of the issues with, okay, this application has a hard block, this application has a rollback, or this application will uninstall during the upgrade because during the upgrade we have people say, my application's gone. Okay, better insights. So then, obviously, like many of you, you were here at the last Ignite, and Microsoft says, hey, there's this great thing coming out called Desktop Analytics. So we said, hey, how can we solve our mess? Let's go ask Microsoft so they can get us out of this problem. So is there any way we could utilize Desktop Analytics to solve our issue? Sure, let's go ahead and onboard. It is more than 4 clicks, which you move through. Seamless, very easy, do cloud attached. As Deepam said, you don't need code management. Everything comes from ConfigMan. Immediately in ConfigMan, we could see that you have all the telemetry information. So if the registry for telemetry is not being set, if data is not being sent up into Azure, so that actually allowed us to figure out that we had firewall issues or other problems inside the company. Okay, let's go fix those machines, which you didn't have in Windows before. So now we fix those machines, we get the information up, and one of the nice issues was the fact that, okay, now as he showed, we have to see what's high install count, what's ready for Windows, what's not. Obviously, just like many of you, we have our own internal applications. We did have to just test it, but Microsoft already said there's a low problem of this application to be upgraded. So a lot of you, of course, he's already talked about Pilot. Pilot's great. It's got all this intuitive information. For me, the best portion was the fact that you had the application health. So then we could look to see, is there an issue with this application? Is it just internal? Because it tells you if it's internal, or if it's worldwide outside of your organization. With that knowledge, while we're moving through either pilot or production, if we see that issue, you can go in, mark it as not ready, those machines will pull out, and then you say, okay, how can we fix this? So then at that point, you've determined, is it internal to your company? Is it a vendor issue? So let's say if it's a vendor issue, you talk to a hotfix, get an upgrade, or if you're one of those unlucky people, the vendor doesn't exist anymore, or they say it's a Windows 7 only product, we're not moving to Windows 10. Then you reach out to Microsoft for App Assure. And how many people have actually reached out to App Assure for help? Okay? So you work with Microsoft, they come back, they shim it, you get it back in your environment, deploy that fix, whatever you need to do, go back into DA and say, yes, I'm ready, put those machines in and move them through. DA has really helped Schlumberger go through the Windows as a service with minimal interruptions. I mean, before when we first pushed out the feature updates, we created a mess. After that, we had admins and people all over the world, whether they're geophysicists or whatnot on a rig saying, oh my gosh, this actually helped. Wow, you upgraded without creating non-productive time. Because it's the customer experience you want, right? So with that, with the involvement of the machine learning and Microsoft's devotion to customer experience, we actually move pretty easily. So and there's a little bit from one of our end users. But we did have to work with moving through all of our 110 applications and marking it because the feature was not available yet. But once we did, our deployment rings kicked off very quickly, and we moved fast, not just Windows 7 to Windows 10, but Windows 10 to Windows 10. So thank you, Microsoft, for making an enjoyable experience. Back to you.
Thanks, Matthew. Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? All right. All right, what's new? I actually covered all of this during my demo itself, so I'm going to skip this one. And that was my intention as well, to show you all of these things in action rather than just talking about it. Let's talk a little bit about what's next. So today in the workflow, we show you all the apps by name, publisher, and version. So we want to provide you some additional capabilities around it. So we will see very soon, we will do some work about how can you efficiently classify some of your assets by just maybe name and publisher, because a lot of time people say, hey, name and publisher is fine with me, and that's what I want to use for my user inputs. So we will do some work there as well. We're doing some work to also induce more AI to identify issues which might be impacting your user experiences. And then we also want to do some more work to automate some of the deployment actions you take in the configuration manager. As I said, both of these things are tied together now. So whatever recommendations you see, they are actually turned into insights or actions which you can go take into the console, right? So we want to automate that, and we want that to be faster for you. We want to provide more additional health insights. So we do have some driver health data, but we will obviously make it better as well and then provide more insights there. Apart from that, some of the cool richness we had from device health about login health or things such as blue screens and app health, all of that would also show up as well in coming time. So we're thinking about those scenarios too. We know that there are certain system requirements. A lot of time people say, I'm using not the late, I'm less on RAM, or maybe my processor is not updating, maybe I have less disk space on some of my devices. So we are also trying to include those signals as well to increase your upgrade confidence so that you can get high fidelity signals. And then you probably have heard some announcements during Ignite about user experience analytics, which we have already talked about. So we'll continue to move some of the workloads as and when they fit, and you will continue to see more and more innovation in coming time in some of the experiences with user experience analytics. So that's what is going to come in the next coming time. I actually also want to quickly talk about user experience analytics. How many of you all did attend this session hosted by my teammate, Zach? A few of you. So I'm not going to go into detail because that's not the scope here. What I quickly want to do is an intro, and then you can refer to his session to know more about what this whole cool new thing is. So now we know that legacy hardware and poorly configured software can sometimes create poor end user experiences or PC experiences, right? And mostly IT rely on support to identify these end user problems. So somebody's going to go call a help desk, and they're going to go raise a ticket. It sometimes is a tiered model, right? It goes to a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Sometimes it takes a lot of time for resolution. It can take minutes or hours, months or days. There is no prediction there, right? So all in all, it actually increases your IT support cost, and we know that it is a challenge. And then poor work experiences or work PC experiences also create bias against us, right? People think that maybe I don't want to use it for home use, and we definitely don't want that. So there's a better way to solve this problem, right? We want to provide you with the power of analytics. Now we can report user experience and recommendations to help you monitor your end users and their devices, and then also perform any proactive remediations on the behalf of your users. right? So before they become global issues or widespread issues, you can actually go ahead and take remediations based on the insights we show you. We want to empower you all with all these insights straight into your endpoint management tools, right? This has a two-folded value for us. You as a customer are going to save on your cost. Your end users will get a better productivity. They will have better performance and reliability, and your support costs are going to come down as well. And then we as Microsoft get better adoption on our product, and then we also see that you can also stay modern and current, and that's what we want. So to begin with that journey, what we have done at Ignite is that we have announced this new paradigm of analytics, where we'll show you startup performance. So if boot up time or sign-in delays are caused by poor hardware or misconfigured policies or any of the third-party agents which run on your devices, we'll show you those insights in the portal. And then you have power of remediation scripting to reduce your support ticket volume, so you can go and perform some of the remediations on the behalf of your end users. We roll this up into some sort of cool scores called as productivity scores or experience scores on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being the worst and 100 being the best, right? And then you can use that information to know how you're doing as an organization all up. This is open for private preview. Customers are currently only supported for Intune folks right now. Very soon, we will also open up gates for ConfigMan customers. So look out for the session from Zach. You will get more details there. With that, I would love to invite over Rob now so that he can talk about tenant attach. Rob.
Thanks, Deepan. Hi, everyone. Oh, people are sleepy. I sympathize significantly. Hey, Avi. So I've got a few minutes at the end of the session just to talk about the tenant attach and the help desk feature that hopefully you've seen, starting with Brad announced at the beginning of the week, and then Paul and Tara went into a bit more detail, and we went into even more detail yesterday. I've got some demo, but I'll start just by addressing a couple of questions that have been themes across the week at the booth and in the sessions. So the first one is, does this require Cloud Management Gateway? No, this is not built on Cloud Management Gateway. This is built on the same connector that co-management is built on. So for those customers that are enrolled into co-management today, when we ship this sometime early next year, you'll see a new tick box in the co-management onboarding, and you'll just be able to tick that and upload your data into the Cloud Console. Similarly, for those customers that haven't onboarded, they'll be able to go through that co-management onboarding, and they'll be able to select that they want to enroll or send their devices into the device service for the Cloud Console. So it doesn't require CMG. We could go into a whole different discussion about when CMG then becomes required if you're trying to manage devices from the cloud. As those devices move out of the corporate network, you can see them from the Cloud Console, but you can't manage them. So Cloud Management Gateway is always a good idea, but it's not built on the Cloud Management Gateway for the Cloud Console to work. And the other question that we've seen a lot is around the release for this into Config Manager. This will be in private preview in 1910. In what is a cataclysmic clash of scheduling, our TAP program started this week. So TAP is where we go on site with customers, and we upgrade them in production to the new version of Config Manager. So that's our 1910 TAP. So we'll be doing that for the next couple of weeks. We had some customers upgrade this week, and we'll be onboarding some more customers next week, and a couple of those will be onboarding to this. And then beyond that, we'll hopefully expand that private preview and then go into maybe a more of a public preview with technical preview either towards the end of this year or into next year. And then hopefully we'll have intercurrent branch sometime early next year. So hopefully everyone's seen the demo of the Device Explorer, as it's called here, and we've shown the timeline. Given that I only have a couple of minutes left, I'm going to start by showing something that's had very little demo, and that's around this usage. And as Deepan was just talking about, the user experience analytics is our evolution of the analytics service. So using that data to give you insights at the tenant level, so that as your device architects and your management architects are looking at that data, being able to give them actionable insights to move forward. The help desk persona is more targeted to a per device basis. So that scenario of a user ringing up and needing help. But one of the things that we've included here is around usage of applications. So that kind of dovetails across those two of big lake of data versus small amount of data. So we can actually start to see the usage of the applications that are being used in your estate. And in this one, you can see that it's a PM because they're spending most of their time in Outlook and Paint, and there's a significant amount of idle time on that. So yeah, it's definitely a PM, it's not a dev. They work way harder than we do. But you can see how we start to surface up that information into this cloud console, and there's loads more that we will do with this over the coming years as we bring more and more of the functionality that currently exists on-prem in Config Manager into the cloud console. And in fact, that's another good common question to call out here. Few customers have asked this week, well, what's happening to the Config Manager console? Nothing. The only thing that will change in the console when you upgrade to 1910 is it will no longer say System Center Configuration Manager in the title bar. It'll say Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. So that's the main change that you will see. Everything that you've been using in the Config Manager console will continue to be there on-prem. This is just in addition, and we'll bring more and more functionality into that. And then I've got a couple more minutes, so let's go over to applications. I don't actually have the client that's managed by this, but I'll show you the admin experience. So one of the things that we heard from customers as we were talking to them, the question was, hey, what do you do with your help desk? How does your help desk work in your organization? And pretty much every customer had a different response. But one of the common themes that we saw across that was, my users still raise a lot of tickets to get software installed. Even if that user can just go into Software Center and install that application themselves, they still raise a ticket, and then the help desk person has to help them through that process. So what we've done in the Cloud Console is we've exposed some great work that our dev team have done over the past couple of releases in Config Manager to bring application installs into our client notification to give real-time application installs. So in this scenario, there's a couple of apps, and I can see that some are actually installed. But then if I go down here, we can see that a couple aren't installed. Ooh. And you can see that there's this install option here. And what that will do is it will use the APIs that are in Config Manager 1906. So this is based on infrastructure that's already there in Config Manager. And it will initiate the install using our client notification channel, which in short terms means in real time, we will instruct that client, as long as that client is online, to go and install their application. And if you want to see a demo of that, we did that in Brad's session on Monday morning. So you can go back and watch Brad's session. And he actually flips over to the client, and you see that client and that application install. And then the other final thing just to call out is that this data that you can see here in this view is not cached into the cloud. This is pulling data from your Config Manager environment over that connected architecture that I was talking about. Oh, hey, Anton, where Anton, who I was calling out, is in the crowd. So we go pull that information. From Config Manager so that we're not having to sync up large amounts of data that is and will change. We'll go fetch that from the Config Manager environment and render that here so that you can take action on those devices and use that real-time information. And on that, that's me done. I'm going to go get my flight now. So thank you ever so much for everyone coming, and enjoy the rest of your day, and safe flight home.